Guys, welcome back to the fifth module of fixing your fucked up diet. So we spent a little bit of time with insulin and hormones last time. Hopefully, you guys got a lot out of that. Now we're going to talk about the different body types, as you were, um, and their relationship with nutrition and food. So what we found is like you can kind of categorize people into one of these three different, we'll call them body types. Just keep it easy. So we have the ectomorphs. So over here on the far left, so we have a version for men and a version for women. These guys and gals tend to be very lean. They also tend to have a very high metabolism. They can pretty much eat whatever the heck they want and still maintain a very lean frame. They have a tough time gaining muscle mass, and they have a much harder time putting on body fat. So generally, these are the people that we all hate, just because they can walk around eating bonbons and ice cream all day, and they don't put on a pound. So then we have our mesomorphs, both in the male and female version. These are our very natural, athletic-looking people. They hold on to a good amount of muscle mass. They're able to stay fairly lean. If they let their diet go too far out of control, they can pack on some body fat, definitely, but they always have a fairly decent amount of muscle mass, and they always have a very athletic look in nature. And then we go into the endomorphs, both male and female. Now, these guys and gals, they generally tend to be a lot heavier set. They pack on pounds very easily. Their metabolism is slower, and they generally look at chocolate cake and they pile on pounds on their hips. So this is just kind of, set up. You can kind of go in between on some of these. I mean, you can see people that are a little bit of a mesomorph and an endomorph, or an ecto and a meso. All of those categories exist, but for our purposes here with the nutrition, we want to focus on what's really going on in their nutritional status, right? So the key thing to take away from this is you need to eat for your body type, and fuel your body appropriately. So now for the ectomorphs, remember, these are the very lean and very slender persons. These guys and gals do better with a lot more carbohydrates in their diet, a moderate level of protein, and a lower level of fat content. So the nutrient distribution for this body type is about 55% carbs, 25% protein, and 20% fat. You don't have to think really crazy with this, although I do recommend doing a food journal and kind of seeing where your macros lie. But, just think higher carbs, lower fat sources. So, good chunks of lean protein, some vegetables, a couple fruit, a couple handfuls of starchy carbs, and a little bit of higher fat foods. That's about it. Notice the men can eat considerably more than the women, so almost double, which is about natural for most things. So the women, they'll have about 1 palm of protein-rich foods, a fistful of vegetables, a cup handful of rice or two, a very small amount of fat, and some nice fruits to polish it all off. So ectomorphs, not everybody's concerned with those because generally they're not having trouble losing weight. It's more gaining weight along the opposite end of the spectrum. So now we have our mesomorphs, our athletic men and women. The mesomorphs generally fall into a very even split. They do pretty well on an even split of 40% carbs, 30% protein, and 30% fat. So generally that's the typical fare for those guys. They're a good mixture of anything. They run very well off of carbs and fat. So as long as they're not going overboard on their caloric consumption, they're generally pretty good and pretty well off. So that is the general rule for those guys. So now the big problem areas is the endomorphs, the guys and gals that, they look at the chocolate cake and on the pounds go. So now you can see that the endomorphs do better on a higher fat and protein and a higher protein intake, with carbohydrate being very severely controlled. So, and also you want to kind of time your carbohydrates to conjoin with your exercise performance. So either before exercise or after exercise is even better. These guys and gals need to consume a lot of vegetables, some good amount of solid protein sources, a good deal of fat, very small amounts of starchy carbs. You can see that the women have even less overall. They have more fat, good chunks of protein, lots of vegetables, and a very, very small amount of carb-dense foods. So ideally, this is what we're looking for in all three of those categories for the types of body fat, right? So you got your ectomorphs, higher carbs, moderate protein, lower fat. You got your mesomorphs, okay, so you want a good mixture of protein, carbs, and fat, kind of an almost even distribution of each. And then you've got your endomorphs, okay, slower metabolism, so you want to get a little bit lower on the carbohydrate side, higher fat, higher protein, okay? Same thing goes for the women, okay? But in smaller quantities. Okay, so now let's talk about what happens when you don't eat enough. This is where your metabolism drops very, very low, and you don't want your metabolism dropping very low. So I often say, try to think of your metabolism kind of like a bucket, right? If you're eating 2,000 kilocalories and you're about even with your weight right now, and you decide, I want to lose all this fat, I want to lose all this body weight, and so you cut your calories by 1,000 kilocalories a day, well, that's fine. But for a while, your body is going to do just what you're telling it to do. It's going to lose weight, and it's going to lose weight very rapidly. The only problem with this is your body's smarter than you are. It's going to rebel, and it's going to drop all those metabolic processes that it doesn't necessarily need to survive. So basically, you're going to change the size of your bucket. So you had a 2,000 kilocalorie bucket. Now you're dropping down to a 1,000 kilocalorie bucket. Now, this is going to be over the period of maybe couple weeks or so forth on a low kilocalorie diet, but we've seen the changes happen in as little as 3 to 4 days for extremely low kilocalories, right? So if you're going to drop your calories really drastically low, you only need to keep them there for a very short amount of time, and then you need to spike them up, okay? So the better plan, gradually reduce your calories, monitor your intake, and control them over time, okay? Consistency is the name of the game here, right? Because if you start having that starvation response, your body is going to rebel against you. You're not going to lose fat, and you're going to change your metabolism for the worse. And then your body's going to say, you know what, you're starving yourself, I'm going to make you eat. And trust me, you're going to eat something, and it's going to be a bad rebound. You're going to gain a lot more fat from this. So slow and steady, okay? Slow and steady wins the race. All right, so when your metabolism slows down and you're left with that 1,000 kilocalorie bucket, right? You start feeding it more food because you will overeat eventually. You're going to pile on the body fat even faster than before. Number one, because your hormones are into storage mode. They're going to throw everything they can in body fat because you just tried to kill yourself. So starvation mode kicks in. Your body doesn't care about losing the extra fat. It simply wants to survive. So if you want to kickstart your fat loss the right way, cut back on your calories for a limited period of time. Make your body inefficient at storing calories, okay? How do we do that? We do that by doing hard physical exercise, okay? Weightlifting, HIIT training, sprints, cycling, you know, the whole gambit, okay? We teach our body how to burn calories through exercise. And then, you know, just moving more, exercising more, and making better food choices overall, right? There's only so many kilocalories that you can cut out of your diet before you starve. A good rule of thumb is you want to eat as much calories as you can while still losing weight, okay? So you start off small, work your way down. Once your body settles into a new weight and you stabilize, okay, it's time to cut it a little bit more. So one key note, if you've been on a crash diet before, and regardless of what you're eating and you're still gaining weight, your metabolism has gotten too low and needs to be stimulated. This is a case-by-case basis, and you should probably talk to your coach or talk to somebody with a good handle on nutrition and training so that you can get back on track, because this is, you know, you can't cookie cutter this one. Like, it depends on the amount of damage and how long it's been. So, you know, just be mindful of that. All right, so to lose weight permanently, here's the key things you want to focus on. Eat as much as you can without gaining fat, okay? Eat well-balanced meals. Think protein, fat, and carbs, okay? And go back to that that little slide, identify what somatotype you are. What type of body do you have? Are you an endomorph, an ectomorph, or a mesomorph? Okay, and then justify your calories from there. Third, make a food journal. This is super important. If you don't track what you're eating, you're not going to be successful, because just like Chewy says here, how do you stay on track if you don't know what you're tracking? How do you know how much you're intaking? Most people will start a food journal and not even realize how much food they're actually intaking. So do yourself a favor, get a MyFitnessPal app, get any one of the other app trackers out there that you like, write it down on pen and paper, but figure out your calories for the week, and then go from there. All right. Also, be mindful when you eat. Learn what your body processes well. There's a lot of foods out there, and we'll get into more of this in another module, talking about your gut health and how your body senses inflammation. And like, gut health is super, super important. Like, it's really true. We are what we eat, and you need to put a control on that. So if there's foods that you don't agree with, even if they're healthy and nutritious for you, maybe you have a little bit of an intolerance for them, and you should avoid those foods for a while, or maybe indefinitely. So, pay attention when you eat something. How do you feel afterwards, right? Do you feel good? Do you feel energized? Do you feel ready to go? Do you feel sluggish? Do you feel bloated? Do you feel brain fog? Do you feel weird rashes? I mean, like, a whole gambit of symptoms can result from eating wrong foods. All right. Enough on that, and more on it later. Learn to cook for yourself, all right? Like, too many people spend all their time going out to eat. This is a diet killer. If you can cook for yourself, if you can plan ahead, you can cook way better than any restaurant. It's healthier for you. You know what's going in there. Learn to cook. That's it. Done. Move as often as you can and lift weights. Stimulate your metabolism and teach your body how to burn calories effectively. Okay? You have to do this. Like, it's a given, right? If you want to keep weight off, you must exercise. It's gonna help you overall. Find a diet that you can live on and make positive gains on it, right? I gave you a couple good examples of certain diets and how they work. Try one. If you like it, stick with it. If you don't like it, swap out to another one, okay? Give it some time to work, but stick with it for at least 2 to 3 weeks and see how it works, okay? If you like bits of one diet and bits of another diet, as long as you know how they work, you can combine them. So you can combine a paleo-ish diet with an intermittent fasting diet, no problem, right? But figure out the pieces that work and fit into your lifestyle, and then go from there. All right, so number 8, plan for failure, but build upon your goals, okay? You're gonna have a tough time with this. It's gonna be tough, it's gonna be hard, you're gonna make mistakes. Don't worry about it, get back on track as soon as you can, and don't sweat the small stuff. Like, we all fall off the wagon from time to time. Make sure this time when you fall off the wagon, you hop right back on, okay? Get right back up on that horse, right? Everybody gets bucked off. Get yourself back in the game. Keep fighting to get where you want to go, okay? Don't let one day or one bad incident with food kill your overall progress. It's not worth it, all right? Now, also remember, weight loss is a process. It happens slowly, over time, with consistent effort, okay? This is the most important, okay? Slow, over time, consistent effort. If you're consistent with this, if you're consistently exercising, you're consistently improving upon your nutritional knowledge and getting better and better foods, you're going to lose weight. I guarantee it. All right, so that's enough for this segment. I hope you've enjoyed these modules. I hope you take a lot away from this. This has helped a lot of people that I've coached over the years in both the National Guard and in everyday life. So if you have questions, I'll be doing a little blog segment on this, and please don't hesitate to shoot me an email or hit me up on Facebook. I'd be happy to talk you through some of the nuts and bolts that you might be missing. I know there'll be questions, so more on that later. Enjoy, and I will chat with you soon.